YouTube crisis, meta commentary, chance for me to overanalyze things? Yes, I'm making another YouTube video. There's been a bit of a conversation. It's been spoken on by many people about the state of YouTube right now because simultaneously YouTube has grown up and has not grown up at all. It's grown up in the sense that people take it more seriously, especially businesses. Like, companies make channels to make content and really invest in that, and people see that and go, oh, YouTube is real and is a platform worthy of at least a modicum of respect. Not really that much respect, to be honest. I think once you step outside of the actual YouTube community, the profile hasn't raised too much, but at least within the community, it feels like, yes, we have arrived. People take us seriously. We matter. Simultaneously, it hasn't really grown up much at all in some aspects. And if you've been on YouTube and interacted with YouTube culture a lot, especially independent and or vlogging culture, you probably have seen the dichotomy of contradiction. Is dichotomy and contradiction the same thing? I'm not actually sure, but the dichotomy of contradiction. Because on the one hand, YouTubers have really, really optimistic visions of what YouTube means to the, culture as a whole. And almost like delusions of grandeur in terms of, we will replace entertainment in general. We will, replace community or, commentary in general. All these things about stuff coming up naturally from the people and through the people and all that. And I don't mean to come off as cynical. I'm a little cynical at like how extreme people get about it in terms of just this site probably has done some good things. More specifically, the people on this site have done some good things. Asterisks, we're going to talk about that later. But not everything. I think we need to just state that right now. Like, YouTube did not kill television. It did not kill news or commentary or whatever. Like, it has done things, but it has not done everything in any one place. So that's the one side of the dichotomy. The other side of the dichotomy is very desperately wanting to be validated by those groups that we say that we no longer need anymore. There's this Frontline documentary that's sort of about the next generation of marketing and advertising. I can't remember what it's called right now. I will put it in words right here. Generation Like. I don't need to put it in words right there. That's it. Well, I will anyways. Generation Like. And I do not agree with everything that they say. I feel like the people that they take as examples, especially on YouTube, are kind of really far on one end of the spectrum of what people's relationships with corporations are. Actually with the Tumblr and the internet too. But all that to say, they do actually raise some good points. And one of those good points is that somehow we see, engagement from companies and corporations as like validation of some kind. And I think that's really undermined us as creative individuals. You can see this on every social network with like different corporations or groups or organizations. On Tumblr, like the Denny's Tumblr is really cool. And when people get responded to by the Denny's Tumblr, they freak out and get really excited. Or on Twitter, when people get responses from Taco Bell or like one or two other companies get like really, really excited. On YouTube, when people get involvement from, or at least for a while, when people got involvement from like maker studios or, these other big groups or even like sponsorship tie-ins, it was a sign that you mattered enough, that people were watching you, that people wanted you in some sense, and that was seen as like a validation of what you were doing in general on Twitter or Tumblr or YouTube. So track with me here. On YouTube, we have simultaneously the mindset that we are overthrowing corporation, we are overthrowing and changing culture and all that sort of stuff, while simultaneously really, really wanting old culture and corporations to tell us, yes, what you're doing is good and valuable, and we want in on it. That's kind of weird. It seems kind of weird to me, at least. But how does this relate to the whole celebrity culture YouTube thing? Now, I will concede it doesn't relate directly. And I think that's good because a lot of people have been talking about the YouTube celebrity culture thing. So a lot of words have been spilled directly about the YouTube celebrity culture thing. But I want to look at this from an angle of general culture, individuality, and community. and kind of where YouTube sits with it all. I don't know where you are right now. Here in America, specifically in Southern California, individualism is a pretty big thing. Like, it's really a thing. Like, people like carving out a name for themselves and being remembered as a distinct person who accomplished distinct things. It's sort of embedded in our culture. And that sense of individuality is the root from which springs forth celebrity culture, because celebrity culture is basically a gross exaggeration of individuality. It's going beyond being distinct and being known by your friends and your family and your colleagues to being distinct and being known by as many people as possible. Now, despite this massive drive for individuality in Southern California, we also have a desire for community. And there are some places where I've lived that this has been a much more dominant force, like Vancouver, Canada, let's say. Hey, kids. Whereas individuality is this desire to be known and to be distinct, community obviously is the desire to be included and be a part of something bigger than yourself. Now, a lot of marketing and advertising can fall into either one of these two tracks. It's either telling you do or buy or be X, Y, or Z for the sake of being remembered and known and distinct, or it's saying do or buy or be X, Y, or Z so that you are part of something greater, so that you are part of a movement, so that you're, part of this. You are one of the people. And I feel like that has sort of reached such a weird collision on YouTube, because that aforementioned desire to throw out the corporations and, replace them and, become the new celebrities, to become the new people, that's a very individualistic thing. It's also the way that YouTube as a brand, Google as a company has marketed YouTube a whole lot. This idea of creating an audience, finding your audience, developing your audience, becoming known, becoming heard. And this is true across a lot of social networks that use numbers and metrics and this desire for individuality and ultimately celebrity and or fame to get more engagement from its users, to ultimately, make more money off of its users. But besides this massive push to be known, to be distinct, to be a celebrity, to be famous, there's also the exact opposite type of marketing and or culture of being one of, developing a community, being in a community. I think this is true on all social networks to an extent. But I think YouTube is unique in that the users have made that the way they market to each other. So YouTube as a company might say, come on to YouTube, we will make you a star. YouTube users, at least the ones in the vlogging community, will say, come on to YouTube, we will make you a family. I think one of the reasons this whole celebrity culture thing is such a crisis for YouTubers is because it is a coming to grips with the reality that people come to YouTube for both community and celebrity at the same time, and that those two things don't really play nice together. And it sort of feels duplicitous to be both trying to find community and trying to get close to your audience, and also simultaneously trying to grow your audience so massive that you can't really be close to your audience. It's kind of cognitive dissonance that screws with your head. So, where do we go from here? How can we, as people on YouTube, develop a healthier attitude about YouTube so that we don't get trapped in this whole mindset and cognitive dissonance and weirdness and visions of grandeur and demand for validation again? All those things. Let's try and tackle that. The main thing I have to stress is just be realistic about what YouTube actually is and what it can actually do, versus what it symbolically represents in your mind. Don't pour into this service your desires for individuality or your desires for community. Don't bank your digital identity on the fact that YouTube exists. And don't identify with YouTube so much, guys. Have you noticed that people call themselves YouTubers and not video bloggers? Why is that? We are binding ourselves to a service rather than an activity. It's kind of weird. Just have to say that. It's kind of weird. Did that come off as annoyed and ranty? It probably came off as annoyed and ranty, but it's really weird. And it's actually kind of silly. Like, things that happened aren't silly, but the mindset itself is a little silly. So we need to grow up a little bit in our understanding of what YouTube is and what it can and can't do. Think of it as a tool, not a platform. That would be a good thing. If we think about this as a tool, not a platform. Because a platform assumes that you build everything on top of it. A tool assumes it's one of the many things that you use in your life. And that is what YouTube is. One of the many things we use in our lives. Not the thing we base our social identity upon. So, yes, YouTube is a tool. Not in an insulting sense.